All right. I think it is safe to start. If there's any other last minute people trickling in, they will. But thank you all for being here today, taking some time out of your busy schedule to be here. We are so excited to be hosting this roundtable discussion event with some professionals from our Nestle Purina Analytical Labs, who we have with us today to answer some questions about our facility, about Purina, and about the incredible career opportunities that the NPAL has to offer. With that, I want to quickly introduce myself and my partner today. So, my name is Jill. I am a part of Nestle Purina's talent acquisition team that helps with recruitment of the NPAL. I am here today to kind of help facilitate this discussion, and I will now pass it over to our other facilitator, Victoria.
Yeah, thanks, Jill. Hi, all. My name's Victoria, and Jill and I partner really closely on the talent acquisition team. We're both the lead recruiters for our Nestle Purina Analytical Labs, and we're really excited to host this discussion for you all today. Before we get started, I would also love to have Krista introduce herself from our branding team.
Thanks, Victoria. Hi, guys. I'm Krista. I work alongside Victoria and Jill for recruitment marketing efforts within the Purina Careers brand. So, really showcasing what it's like to work at Purina, different growth opportunities, how we're being innovative in the pet care space. Yeah, and just partnering with our different departments. And I will pass it over back to Victoria.
Yeah, thanks so much, Krista. So, we're so excited to have you all here today. Before we get started, I do actually have a couple questions for you guys. So, if you see at the bottom of your page, there should be a little react button with some emojis. So, feel free to throw some of those up to answer our questions. But I've got two. I first would love to know how many of us here are pet parents? Seeing some thumbs, some hearts. Awesome. I am too. Um, with that, I am curious. My next one: who here is familiar with Nestle Purina? All right, we're getting some more. That's great. Okay. Well, that's very exciting to hear how many of you already are familiar with us. But in case you're not, that's okay. I'll tell you a little bit about our company. So, Nestle Purina, we are actually a prominent player in the pet care industry. Our company, we're dedicated to providing quality products to both cats and dogs. So if you've ever seen any of the pet food brands like ProPlan, Beneful, Dog and Cat Chow, maybe some of our treats like vegan strips, or for our cat lovers, if you're familiar with Tidy Cat's litter, those are all brands that fall under the Nestle Purina company, plus a ton more. And with that, our company is deeply rooted in St. Louis, Missouri. So is actually the home of our headquarters. If anyone's local or has visited, you've probably seen the Gateway National Arch, and our headquarters is actually just a few blocks away from that. It is a campus style, and I tell you guys that because I think when we talk about laboratories, it's good to know that we have the space to have really well established ones. So on that campus, that actually houses our Nestle Purina Analytical Labs, which, as you see behind all of us right here, that's abbreviated NPAL if you hear me or the team say that throughout the call. But today, what we've got in store for you, you'll actually hear from our panel of four chemistry experts from the NPAL, and they'll talk to you a little bit more about the team, what they do, and what it's like to work within that team. Following that discussion, we will have an open Q&A. So I know you guys can't come off mute, but if you have questions throughout the call, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and Jill, Krista, and I will do our best to monitor and get those to the team during that open Q&A. And then after that, we'll wrap up with a message from Krista about branding and a little bit more about how to stay connected. So with that, Jill, I'll turn it back to you to introduce the team.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we want to give a quick spotlight to our four NPAL professionals that are here with us today to answer some of our questions. So I want to do some quick introductions. So if you would like to introduce yourself, Tom, that would be great.
Sure. My name's Tom Neese. I'm the chemistry manager for our sample prep and proximate lab. I've been with Purina for 39 years, all of it with NPAL.
Thank you so much, Tom. Kendra, if you would like to go next.
Hi, I'm Kendra Shepard. I've been with Purina since May of 2023, and I am the supervisor in the organic lab.
Wonderful. Thank you. Frankie, if you would like to go next.
Hi, my name is Frankie Gerwitz, and I am an associate chemist here in NPAL. I work in our organic chemistry lab. Been here about 6 years, and I love it.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then finally, Justin, if you would like to introduce yourself as well.
Hello, everyone. My name is Justin McKenney. So I'm a chemist in the organic lab as well. And I've been with NPAL for 3 years now.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much again for being here today. We're super excited to have you. And with that, I think we can kind of just dive right in. So, my first question for this is going to be for Tom. If you could possibly tell us what is the NPAL and how does it impact our company?
Sure. Nestle Purina Analytical Labs, or NPAL, is we're the quality center for Nestle Purina Pet Care. We've supported Nestle Purina Pet Care for over 100 years. We've had a lab here on campus that whole time, so that's kind of cool. We do this by providing results based on analytical testing in our proximate, inorganic, organic, and we also have a microbiology lab. And the results that we provide are used to make release decisions on pet food ingredients and finished products. We support innovation and renovation and research of new ingredients and products. And it also helps the Purina business make quick, informed decisions to provide safe and nutritious uh, pet food to our customers.
Thank you for that. And what kind of testing do we focus on in the labs?
Yeah, so it's basically nutritional testing. If you think of pet food packaging and the label on the packaging, any of the testing that goes into that to come up with those values on there. So, um, like in the proximate lab, moisture, protein, fat, fiber, ash, dietary fiber. And then in our inorganic labs, we do heavy metals and minerals, and then in our organic lab, we do a lot of fat and water soluble vitamins, amino acids, fatty acids, pesticides, just things of that nature. Yeah. But pretty much anything that goes into a pet food label, that's what we do.
Very cool. Thank you for that, Tom. Sounds like we are, I think your answer to that really hits on how significant of a player our NPAL is to our Nestle Purina company. I know you guys are kind of the heart and soul of what we're doing and making sure the products we're getting out are exceeding quality for all of our consumers. So thanks for that, Tom. My next question is for Justin. Now that we've heard a little bit more about the NPAL, I am curious from your perspective, what is the work culture like, and how do you think the team fosters collaboration and innovation?
Yeah, so as a lot of you guys kind of responded, and it's probably not a huge surprise, a lot of us are also pet owners and also Purina customers. So every day when we're coming through the door, we're all kind of here to really make sure that we're putting results out. They're really going to make sure that what we're providing to you guys and to ourselves is safe food for our pets so that they can be healthy and strong. And you really see that in the work culture. I mean, also it's really helpful that we're pet friendly campus. So we have a lot of people who bring their pets on the campus, and that just really creates a fun environment to be around. If you're having a stressful day, you can kind of just go over to your boss's office and hang out with the dog and just kind of get back to what you're actually here for, which is the pets. But yeah, we do a lot of collaboration and innovation. So we're involved in a lot of outside scientific organizations, AFCO. We attend, a lot of like local conferences as well. And through that, we are just really trying to find better ways to, get results out faster, more accurately, and really be confident in the results that we're producing. And you kind of see that a lot of people will come in. There might be a method they've been running for like a few years, and they think like, hey, I think there's a better way we can be doing this. They'll go and talk to their manager, and they'll look at what's out there available to them or what we've seen. With us being part of Nestle, there are labs all over the world that are also doing this research that we're able to tap into and talk to and figure out, hey, is there something you're doing that we're not doing, and vice versa. And we've seen a lot of innovation in the last couple of years. Just for example, we had vitamin D is a really important vitamin that we look at. We want to make sure that we're getting that in the exact range. We don't want to give too much to our dogs, especially. And so we had a method that was taking 3 days to run. And if you need to retest something, that's not a fun thing to tell an analyst. So we took a couple years to research and develop that, and now we're able to cut that down, and our throughput is a lot higher as a result of that. So that's just a great example of some of the collaboration and innovation we're able to do here.
Yeah, thank you so much, Justin, for talking to us a little bit more about that innovative and wonderful opportunities that the NPAL has to offer. It really is such an incredible facility. Also, having pets on campus can be the best pick me up throughout the day. Just saying hi to those sweet dogs as you walk through the halls to your next meeting. So, thank you for that as well. I actually have a follow-up question for Kendra about the lab. So, Kendra, what are some of the challenges faced in the lab and how do team members overcome them?
Okay. Some of the challenges that we face on a daily basis are sample volume and sometimes instrumental issues. So, customer service will communicate with our leadership team if we're going to get a large volume of samples. That way, we can discuss it with our teams to see how best we're going to um, get those samples taken care of to turn them around for the customer, their expected turnaround date. Sometimes an analyst may not have as much on their plate as the person who's getting all those samples. So we'll collaborate with each other and can you help me out today? I need to get 100 samples done this week. So we work together as a team to make sure we're meeting the customer's needs. For instrument issues, there are ways that sometimes we can troubleshoot our instruments ourselves. We go through training with our um, expert chemists, and if it's not something that we can do ourselves, then we'll escalate it to our senior chemists or our expert chemists to get their opinions on what our next steps would be.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. It really does sound like the team is pretty tight knit. Everybody's always willing to lend that helping hand and just kind of dive right in to get the job done, which is super helpful to know. So thank you. My next question will be for Frankie now. What do you find most rewarding about working at the NPAL?
Thanks, Jill. Um, what I find most rewarding is working in a diverse department with scientists from all different backgrounds. Um, as a leader in the pet care industry, Nestlé Purina is always on the cutting edge of technology. Our department has done lots of testing to help advance science and ensure the safety of pets. And one of probably the most rewarding times I've had in my career was when we received a letter from a small child with allergies who was finally able to get a cat after we launched Live Clear. NPAL did a lot of testing to help launch Live Clear. And so getting that letter really meant a lot. And knowing that you have personally played a role in advancing technology and ensuring safe supply chain during times of need is really rewarding.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Frankie. Just hearing about that letter really warms my heart because I think that's a true testament to everything we're doing and just how passionately the whole team feels about it too. So I love that. Now that we've heard a little bit more about the NPAL overall, some of the great things about what it's like to work there, I think that I would love to dive now into specifically for each of you, kind of what um, the different opportunities are. So, my next question is actually for Kendra. In your opinion, what are some of the growth opportunities and what do they look like within the department?
Okay. In PAL as well as all of Purina, there are growth opportunities everywhere. You'll work with your manager or supervisor to build your own career path, so so to speak. Um, so if you choose to be a chemist, say you want to do that forever, you can stay in your role that you're in if you're comfortable there, or you can progress to a senior chemist or an expert chemist or some people choose to go down the path of a people leader. That's the path that I'm on. I started with NPAL as a chemist, and I was promoted to a people leader at the beginning of this year. So it's just the direction that you choose to be on. Um, we encourage, constant learning and development. So you can take classes or go to seminars or conferences. You just have to coordinate it with your manager, and we'll try and get that taken care of for you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kendra, for that. Professional development and those growth opportunities really are so important to so many. So I always actually love to tell candidates as their recruiter that that is one of the many things that I admire most about Purina as a company is that associates are really empowered to own our own career, discover passions along the way, and then learn more about the industry as a whole. There's so many opportunities to grow within the company, especially within the NPAL. So thank you so much for that wonderful response. My next question will actually be for Frankie now. How have you personally developed and catapulted your career since working for the NPAL, and how does your team support that growth?
Thanks, Jill. I began working in NPAL 6 years ago as a lab analyst in the proximate lab. And since then, I've been promoted to an associate chemist and moved to the organic chemistry lab. And over the years, my managers have been very supportive of my growth opportunities and development. They've encouraged me to complete various trainings and to obtain new certifications. They're always on the lookout for new opportunities that will help catapult my career. And they're very supportive of any that I find. I've been very grateful to be able to go to some of those conferences and things like Kendra was talking about, and come back and present on what I've learned. And I've just really enjoyed the journey so far.
Yeah, thanks for that, Frankie. I think your personal journey, just knowing a little bit about you, is a true testament to all of the growth opportunities and really neat projects that you can work on and bring back to the NPAL. So, love to hear that. Our last question today is actually for Justin. Can you tell the group what are some exciting things happening in the NPAL currently or that you guys have planned for the future?
Yeah, so NPAL is actually going through a lot of growth right now. And I think one of the key things Nestle global wise is that we're trying to be more agile, especially in like the technology space. So one of the things that I think just in the last couple of weeks that we got on site that we've kind of started to get to play around with is this robot that is meant to help with pipetting and creating, cereal dilutions and actually doing all the prep for you. It's called Andrews Plus. If you haven't seen it, really would suggest going and looking at it. There's going to be a lot more of this stuff coming out in the chemical space. So it's really nice to be able to just set up a sequence, tell it how you want your samples prepped and diluted, and then you can walk away and go do something else and maybe work on one of those development things that you decided with your manager. Additionally, one of the things that has really been a huge buzz here at NPAL is it's been a multi-year project, but we're finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but we are getting a new lab space. So currently, the way that the organic lab is set up is we're kind of on a couple different floors. And so collaboration and teamwork's a little bit harder. We still obviously do our best, but being all in one space is really going to allow us to work faster, more efficiently, and really be able to like tap into our team members when needed. Additionally, with that, we're going to be able to bring NPAL up into the 21st century with some of our technology and really start utilizing some stuff. So additionally, one of the things that we preemptively got for the new lab is a whole fleet of UPLCs that we're really excited. We've kind of been testing those out, but when we switch to the new lab, we're really going to make the switch away from some of our 20-year-old instruments to these brand new ones that have just been sitting there looking really nice, ready to go. But yeah, the lab space, definitely super excited about that. Maybe I'm more excited, but I definitely think there are other people that are excited for that. And that should be coming hopefully middle of this year. So by the end of this year, NPAL is going to be in a great spot.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Justin. Certainly appreciate it. Super exciting to hear about the up and coming of the NPAL. Um, that actually kind of wraps up our roundtable discussion portion of this. So, again, we want to thank all four of you for being here today and shedding a bit more light on the NPAL and all that it has to offer us as employees. So, thank you so much. With that, we would love to now open the floor up to a quick Q&A session for our audience. If anybody is interested in asking any of our four panelists some questions, please feel free to throw those questions in our chat and we will facilitate those as they come. All right, we have our first question in the chat. Feel free, anybody who wants to come off mute and answer this one, but how many samples on average are run each day?
I can take some of it. It kind of depends on the test. Some of our tests are more complex than others. So obviously for that reason, they're a little more expensive. So some people choose to do more of like a proximate panel. So we see a lot more testing per sample to come through the proximate lab for that reason. So it just really kind of depends on the test. Um, but as an example for air oven moistures, we might run 100 samples every day. Uh, Combustion protein, same thing. But then something like a vitamin A or a vitamin E, we might only run 30 to 30 samples a day. I'm sure Justin's probably cringing because they probably run a lot more than that. But yeah.
Thanks, Tom. And thank you, Gabriella, for the question. We've got a few more here. Our next one is from Avery. She said, I love your value of career growth opportunities at NPAL. I'm curious what opportunities there are to get into the NPAL in a more entry level role, or what the chemist experience was with that. So I'll tackle the first half of that question and then I'll open it to you guys. As far as entry level opportunities, we are in growth mode for the NPAL right now. Um, Entry level opportunities for us, they come up sometimes. Sometimes we get associate chemist level roles. We typically do a yearly internship, which, just so you guys know, our next hiring round for that will most likely not be until next summer. Um, and then we do sometimes also get some contractor positions that are entry level in our team too. You'll see some entry level quality or lab level technicians that would fall into those job titles as well. Um, for the second half of that, though, team, if you could answer, can you talk about maybe how you guys got started here and what positions you guys started in?
I'll start. As I said before, I started as a chemist. I originally applied for a people leader role. Um, but as Victoria says, you have to trust the process. So you come in and you tell your manager or supervisor what your career aspirations are. Um, so about a year and a half, 2 years, I was promoted back to a people leader role. That's, you know, I don't know if that's a typical time frame for other people because I've only been here a year and a half, but um, it just depends on your skill level and the abilities that you bring to the table.
Yeah, I love that, Kendra. I always tell candidates, we're very much the type of company where you plan the path you want to take, and we will help provide you the tools to pave it. And Kendra, I think you're a true testament to that. You trusted the process, and we got you there. So, um, Justin, Frankie, do you guys want to talk about how you guys started here?
Yeah. So we haven't had contract positions open for a while, but I actually was started off as a contractor. Was a contractor for 4 months before being offered a full time position. So I came in at the lowest level, senior technician, quality assurance. Was pretty much fresh out of college. had one previous job before this. It just wasn't a good fit. Came across NPAL and instantly knew that this was the place to be. I know we've talked about it, but yeah, really, it is the path that you make for yourself. So got here, it was a little bit more of a downtime, and it's really nice. Like I went to my manager, was like, "Hey, I'm was taught Excel in college, used it for really simple projects, but obviously, like I was exposed to how they're using it here in the lab, and I was like, I really want to learn this more, and spent a lot of time doing some courses and stuff in my downtime in between running samples. Was really able to like develop and kind of learn more about through that how the lab is processing data and how we handle that and how it's getting to the customer and like what it's really important that we're prepping stuff, but how we handle the data and how we're being integrous with that is really critical too. And so really kind of just like worked on that and was able to kind of use that to build my path towards my current role as a chemist.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, we'll do our next one then. The next one is from Melina. Um, what are some things you did in your undergraduate or graduate degrees that prepared you best for your career now? And that's a question for anyone.
I'll take this. Thanks for your question. So there are a variety of degrees that we come with to NPAL. We have everything from chemistry degrees to microbiology. We have a few of us who have animal science degrees, like I do. So I went to Mizzou. I got my bachelor's of science in animal science. So I learned the anatomy, physiology, husbandry of all of your livestock animals, companion animals. So I learned how to formulate the diet, calculate the diet. Now I test the diet, so it feels very full circle. And some of the things I did in my undergraduate studies that helped prepare me best for my career now were just being open to opportunities and saying yes when things came along. So when I started in NPAL, I started at a more entry-level position because I'd actually transitioned from a different industry back into doing, more direct, like bench work type chemistry. So just being open and saying yes to opportunities that come your way, working really hard, and proving yourself in any position opportunity you receive, I think is probably one of the most valuable things you can do. And networking is certainly always beneficial.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Frankie, for that one. Networking is huge. It's pretty much all about who you know these days, which is really important. So, creating those connections and maintaining those connections is huge. Great call out. Thank you for that. Our next question is actually from Amelia. She is currently an undergraduate sophomore and she's looking at the possibility of pursuing a PhD. Can one of you please answer how valuable that degree is in an industry lab like this?
So I don't personally have a PhD. I only have a bachelor's, but I will say we have a lot of expert and senior expert chemists on site who have PhDs and some senior chemists. And honestly, it is super helpful. Being able to go to them, both with the experience that they have from other careers, but also just their wealth of knowledge, both from a prep perspective, instrument perspective, is super helpful. If it's something you're considering, I definitely think it's helpful to have that understanding and knowledge. I know if I come across a problem and I go to one of them, they will have the answer. And if they don't, they know where to go and find that. They usually have the context. There's been some issues where it's not something simple that we can resolve just by talking within NPAL. But they have the contacts in the industry of like, oh yeah, I know the guy that's an expert in that thing. And they reach out and they're able to get us the information we need. So I definitely, if it's something you're considering, I definitely would recommend it.
Thanks for that, Justin. And I will say, too, from a recruitment perspective, we don't necessarily require a PhD for any of our roles, but boy, our team does find it helpful, I have to say. So don't be discouraged if you aren't going to pursue that. But if you are, awesome. Our next question is from Diana. We don't have anyone representing our microbiology lab here today, but we do have an analytical microbiology lab. Um, Tom, since you've worked with us for a while, you may be a little familiar with it. Can you talk about that team at all to the best of your ability?
Uh, I can try. I'm not gonna lie. I try to avoid that lab just because you got to scrub up to go in there. But yeah, it's a fairly small team, but they have a large throughput in there, and they've worked really hard in the last few years to align all of our methods with Nestle methods. And so yeah, it's a small group, but also growing. So yeah, it's a big part of NPAL as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. Small but mighty. We love to say
Yes,
that.
yes.
Yes, that's awesome. This next question is from Layla. If maybe a couple of you would like to come off mute and talk about it, but what instrumentation is commonly used in our labs?
In the organic lab, we use HPLCs, UPLCs, GC mass spec, LC mass spec, and some of your general pH meters, um, UV vis spectrophotometers. Um, Justin, anything I'm missing?
Yeah, no, that's like really like anything you'd kind of cover in your like generic college classes, GC, LC, definitely. I'd say we're definitely heavily focused on the UPLC side of things. Like I said earlier, we just got a whole set of those. And so that's kind of where a lot of our method development has been focusing. And just being able to have the flexibility of being able to, re-inject samples that you don't get on the GC side of things. Obviously, there's certain methods where GC is just the king, and so we're going to continue to use that for those. And then on the inorganic side, we have ICP for a lot of our metals analysis. Previously, we were using AA, but we've switched away from that. And then I know we have some instrumentation in the proximate side, but I'll leave that to Tom.
Yeah, in approximate lab, most of those tests have been around for a long, long time, longer than me. So there's not a lot of method improvements we can make there. So we look for things like process improvements and automation and things like that. And that is the cool thing throughout the lab. All of our methods, we're constantly trying to improve and build on the technologies that we already have. And as everybody knows, the world changes fast. So whatever new and exciting technologies are out there, we're looking at it and trying to align our methods with that.
Yeah, thank you all. I know we've got a lot of instrumentation throughout our labs, so thanks for touching on all of that. Um, Our next question is from Andrew. Andrew is currently a senior with an organic chemistry research background. So, this is a question maybe Justin, Frankie, Kendra. What do you recommend in trying to find opportunities within the NPAL? And I think we're targeting just because their focus is research related. And maybe a better way to phrase that, do you guys know or have any coworkers who were from the research space who then dove into the analytical team, or can you talk about that at all?
So
I
yeah,
I mean, I would
oh,
say to that, sorry, I know she called you guys out, but we don't really do research per se, but as I was saying, there's always research into new method development and along those lines. But we don't really have research, a research department, but I'll let Justin comment up too.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like we definitely use research kind of like a little bit in a different light here. Like it's not, we're not necessarily, doing method development just for the sake of method development or research for the sake of research for publication. Like definitely there is an objective that we're trying to achieve, be it getting better results, accurate results, faster throughput, solvent reduction. Green chemistry has definitely been a topic that we've been looking at with some of our method development. Um, so yeah, I think like if you have, interest and background in, you know, those skills aren't going to hurt coming here. We are, more of a working lab. We're prep heavy, but as we've all stated, there's always room for method development. Um, Technology's coming out, improvements are coming out every year, and we really try to stay in touch with that stuff. So when stuff comes down the pipeline that we really can't turn our heads away from, and we're like, hey, this is definitely something we need to like look into, then that's when we kind of start figuring out, how do we, modify this necessarily for our matrices, because that is definitely like one of the struggle points for us is pet food is not necessarily the nicest matrix to work with. And so, you know, there's a lot of methods that come out that are great. They're optimized for really clean stuff, like pure oils, for example. But when you're working with an oil that has a lot of other stuff in it, how do we optimize that method? So that's really where the research background is going to come in handy. So if you have it, great, super helpful. But yeah, it's just good to know that we are predominantly a prep lab, and that is still the focus: is how do we get samples in and out? How do we get results out to the customers? And how do we make these, how do we inform the business?
Yeah, thank you so much, Justin, for that. And having that research background certainly can help catapult your career in different ways as well. So thank you for that insight. That was great. Um, I love this next question. Thank you, Gabriella, for asking this one. This one is specifically for Tom, who has had a career at Purina for over 30 years. Um, can you please tell us, did you start in an entry level role? I'm curious what has kept you at Purina for over 30 years and what your career path has looked like.
I love to tell my story. Yeah, I started out about as entry level as you can get. We had a nasty old storage room, and they brought me in to clean that up. And when I got done with that, I just started working in our sample prep lab just to keep busy. And uh, after I worked in our sample prep lab for a while and I had some free time, I moved on to the proximate lab and started running tests in there, and just kind of moved along. I've worked in every lab at NPAL at some point or another, even microbiology. They recruited me to weigh some samples in there for a while. So, but it's very cool. I would say that the thing that I love the most is the people. I've always been super supported through my whole time here, and I'll say what I say to everybody. If you show up, work hard, and be a good person, the opportunities come to you. And I feel like, well, I think I'm a good person, but I think that I'm a good example of that. And yeah, so it was kind of cool. I spent some time in our organic lab, and then we did a restructuring, and they needed a people leader for the proximate lab. And since I had the most experience in that area, that's when I transitioned into my people leader role as a supervisor. And then I've just been building on that since. So, yeah, it's been 39 great years. And I've said it a lot lately. I think this is the strongest NPAL that I've ever been associated with, and I'm pretty proud of it.
Thanks, Tom. I always love your story. Knowing how you grew with us and just what your career path has been is very inspiring. And I think just showcases the amazing things you can do here, and really work towards what you want to achieve. So, thank you for that. Um, we've got one more question here, from Melina. What has been your favorite project and or initiative that you've had the chance to work in at your time at the NPAL?
I'll take this one first. So it was really cool to be here I think pretty well from start to finish of them developing Live Clear, which is our cat food that helps reduce the allergen load, so that families who have sensitivities to cats and things can better coexist with their pets. So we saw a lot of testing, verifying ingredients, verifying different suppliers for ingredients, doing um, sample testing all along the way for all the different, you know, method or all the different segments that went into like developing this formula, and just testing it all along the way and making sure that we were meeting all the nutrition requirements and everything as this food was developed. And so you see a sample come through and it says project such and such name, and you don't know what it is, but you're like, oh, it's pet food. So it was really neat to see that come to life and go just from testing ingredients to testing like preliminary like formulations and things all the way to a finished product, and then receiving that letter from that little child was really rewarding. And hearing that, okay, this thing I spent so many hours on and so much time researching and so many hours weighing these samples over and over again, it made a difference. And so just knowing that this little kid got to finally get a cat was pretty special.
Say I would say one of the cool things for me is we're involved heavily with ingredients, new ingredients for new products and things like that. So it's very cool to see the new ingredients come through and be a part of the testing and the formulation for all of that. And then, when a final product makes it to the shelves, I think that's really cool, to know that you played a part in that. And then one other thing I wanted to build on, just real quick, because I can talk forever, but uh, Justin, talked about, research and, things like that. I was just sitting here thinking about all of the other opportunities that aren't real you don't really think of as chemistry. Like I was able to travel to our factories to be part of our factory assessment team. We assess third party labs for stuff like that. There's just so many other opportunities that kind of are on the fringes of chemistry. Um, so yeah, there's a lot of opportunities just that aren't your normal chemistry opportunities. So and I've been able to take advantage of a lot of those. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, to add to that, like as Tom was saying, like we kind of have, we didn't really talk about it here, but we really forget what we have a QA department, and that is really critical to like a lot of the stuff we do here. So if the lab stuff really isn't your thing, um, but you still really like chemistry, and really like tracing documents and figuring how to be in line with things, like the QA department is super important to giving really a lot of meaning and understanding to like how we need to proceed through our days. Um, and yeah, like an aspect of that is we have a lot of factories that we're supporting in the lab, but we have a QA factory audit team that goes and explores and does audits on the factories and make sure that we're supporting the labs there as well. I'm able to be a part of that, and that's honestly a lot of fun to understand. Like, hey, like we're doing something in the lab, and then we go, to a factory audit, and we see them doing a very similar method, but maybe they just haven't picked up a trick that we've learned on how to like make it just a little bit easier. And being able to share that is super rewarding. Like and it can be something really like simple as like, yeah, like let's use this kind of bottle top dispenser instead of using glass pipetters, right? Something simple as that someone might just not be aware of, and being able to share and seeing, sample flow just be so much easier, and not having to like break glassware and order new glassware, but just being able to use a bottle top is really fun.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for this input here. First of all, Frankie, great example. What a full circle moment, hearing that example of Live Clear and the letter that you guys received. That's an awesome one. And then Justin as well, thank you so much for calling out the factory auditing side of things too. Quality assurance is so important, ensuring that our products are what they say that they are, and keeping those standards held high so that consumers are purchasing those items. and knowing what they're getting. So thank you so much for that example. We have one more question in the chat. Thank you, Gabriella, for this question. It's actually for Frankie. We're going to ping pong it back to you now. Can you please share an example of a conference that you've gone to that supports your career development?
Thank you for this question. So I have really owned my career while being here in NPAL. I'm very grateful for that opportunity. So one of the conferences I attended was actually the Disability In conference. So that may not seem totally related to chemistry. However, making our methods more accessible and user-friendly and easier to train from for all different minds is very important. So being able to go to the Disability In conference, learn about current best practices and things on how to make documents and things more accessible, how to make training more accessible, learning about different types of accessibility like technology and things that we can put in place for our associates, that's really, really neat to be able to do. And then to be able to bring that back and share it with the department and it be well received by management and things like that. And then being able to actually implement some of those things, that's been super helpful and just really rewarding. So we've actually started adding like flowcharts and pictures and things to our methods so that, let's say you're someone who does not learn the best by just reading dense text on a page. We've got steps outlined in flowcharts. We've got pictures. So if you're a visual person, maybe you think in pictures. We've tried to make it to where our lab is more accessible and accommodating for all.
Thank you so much for that response. Great one there. Definitely across the board in terms of the company as a whole, we try to be as inclusive as possible. So thank you so much for calling that out. I don't see any more questions in the chat. I'm going to pause really quick and make sure. Does anybody have any other questions that they'd like to ask before we kind of round this out today? And if not, that's completely okay. Just going to pause really quick. If not, that's good. Well, just to kind of close this out, thank you so much for these incredible questions and really coming prepared. We can certainly feel your excitement. It's been a pleasure being able to help facilitate this. So thank you so much to our panelists for being here today, but also our audience as well. I am actually going to pass it over really quick to our branding partner, Krista, for a quick call out.
Thanks, Jill. I did notice, Layla, do you have one more question? If you want to put it in the chat, we can always squeeze it in. But just a quick reminder, we do have a talent community, so you can enroll in that talent community and learn more about our organization, receive job alerts that are in your areas of expertise and areas of interest. So be sure to enroll in that talent community. I'll go ahead and put the link in the chat. But really just staying up to date on what's going on with all things Purina is really helpful, and it will serve you content based on what your interests are. And again, just keeping up to date.
Thanks for that, Krista. Here's our last question. Thank you, Layla, for getting it in there. So Layla mentioned I hadn't seen any positions available for entry level near me, the headquarters. Is there plans for more entry level in the future? For example, for Q2. I'll tackle that one, team, to the best of my ability, and correct me if I'm wrong, anyone. As of right now, no, not to my understanding. Right now, we've been honing in on some more intermediate and senior level positions just with the growth of our labs to help kind of harvest some of those projects we have going on. But I do hope and I think that in the future, there will be some, just not any in the near future we can predict. Team, is that right? Or anyone have anything different?
I think that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. But Layla, joining that talent community that Krista just plugged, you can sign up for job alerts. You'll get notifications if anything comes through that aligns with that. So I highly recommend that. Thanks, Tom. Alrighty, y'all. Well, just one last thank you to our panelists for being part of this discussion and sharing your experiences. I'm going to throw a bunch of applauding reactions in there. You guys did a wonderful job. I also want to thank my partners, Jill and Krista, for helping put this event together. And thank you to everyone who joined today and for the wonderful questions. They were all great. Um, Last but not least, I am going to throw Jill and I's LinkedIn profiles in the chat. If you'd like to connect with both of us and stay in touch or have any follow up questions, please feel free to go ahead and shoot us a connection and shoot us a message, and we're happy to chat anytime one on one. But with that, that does conclude our panel discussion. So, again, thank you all, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.